Learning outcomes. After studying this module, you shall be able to know more about how humanist theories apply to humanistic therapy, learn its characteristics and important concepts, identify the different kinds of humanistic therapies, evaluate this therapeutic approach critically, and also to analyze its usefulness in clinical and counseling setting. Now we go to introduction. The humanistic model states that every human strives to seek the meaning of his existence and to maximize his personal growth. This is referred to as third force after psychoanalysis and behaviorism. This approach views human nature as basically good. They emphasize on positive, more optimistic aspects of human potential for health, creativity, and constructive living. According to humanists, if one's environment allows himself or herself to develop freely, then he or she will become a fully functioning person with a higher vision in his or her life. Humanistic therapists emphasize on forming a therapeutic relationship which is cooperating, trusting, and to respect the unique world in which the person lives. It is a holistic approach which believes interrelatedness between the client's biological, social, psychological, and spiritual dimensions. Key proponents of this approach include Abraham Maslow, Carl Rogers, and Fritz Perls. According to humanists, each of us should develop values derived from our experiences rather than having that of others. Otherwise, we may deny our own selves. Psychopathology, according to this view, is essentially the blocking or the distortion of the personal growth and a natural tendency towards physical and mental health. Such blocking results from an exaggerated use of ego defense mechanisms or unfavorable social conditions or excessive stress. Now we must understand the characteristics of this therapeutic approach. The first approach that we have is empathetic understanding, which basically means that the therapist must enter into and understand the client's own perceptions and subjectively experienced world. He should empathetically try to understand the client's frame of reference. Next, uniqueness of each individual. The humanist places an emphasis on human potential, which is the ability of individuals to become what they want to and fulfill their capabilities. Moreover, as each person experiences and perceives the world in a special way and participates in his or her own self-creation, each person is unique. Third, we must understand the importance of authenticity. This means that it is important to demonstrate authenticity via genuine, truthful encounter. Exploration of client's problems and assessment and enhancement of his or her motivation must be done authentically and in a collaborative manner. Concept of self-actualization. Self-actualization is one of the most prominent concepts of humanistic theory, which was proposed by Abraham Maslow. Self-actualization is a state of self-fulfillment which represents the need to fulfill our highest potential. Each person has their own unique ways of achieving self-fulfillment, and this state is regarded as the ultimate human motive. Self-actualization motivates us to perfect ourselves mentally, artistically, emotionally, and socially, and to engage in activities for the intrinsic satisfaction and to live deep and meaningful lives, which could be dedicated to the betterment of all people, not just ourselves. Maslow also identified 14 characteristics called B values that he felt defined self-actualized people. These values included aliveness, autonomy, beauty, goodness, humor, justice, perfection, simplicity, totality, truth, uniqueness, wholeness, completion, and effortlessness. People like Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln, Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, and Martin Luther King, who achieved self-actualization, made enormous contribution to our world. Some of these people achieve a state of self-transcendence, moving beyond the focus on self to commit themselves to the welfare of others, to spiritual fulfillment, and to causes higher than themselves. Abraham Maslow proposed that self-actualization even occurs in everyday people. For example, a housewife who gives her maximum to raise and nurture her family, a professor who is able to provide his students with an environment that maximizes their potential, and a musician who can realize and uses his highest creative potential, all can be self-actualized people according to Feldman in 2002. Maslow claimed that humans will feel satisfied and comfortable when they use their creative potentials to the fullest level possible. Thus, when human becomes self-actualized, they will sense a reduction in the striving for fulfillment and in fact provide a state of satisfaction. Now we must know various types of humanistic therapies, among which first one we have is Rogers client-centered therapy. Carl Rogers developed a client-centered therapy. It is only a set of principles relating to how the therapy process develops and not a fixed or complete approach. The client-centered approach is called a person-centered theory, as it is a specialized branch of a client and his or her subjective and phenomenal world. The therapist functions as a facilitator of personal growth by helping the client discover his or her own directions. The therapeutic relationship between the therapist and the client is the catalyst for the change. That means the client uses the unique relationship as means of increasing awareness and discovering latent resources that he or she can use constructively in changing his or her life. The client-centered approach has a view of human nature, according to which the basics behind the person-centered counseling is that people are essentially good, people are generally positive, forward-moving, constructive, realistic and trustworthy. Every human is directed towards self-actualization right from the stage of infancy. Person-centered theorists believe that each person is capable of finding a personal meaning and purpose in life. Dysfunctionality is really a failure to learn and change. According to the phenomenological perspective, it is the individual's view of reality that is important, not the event itself. For Rogers, the word self is the core of this theory. According to him, self is not only a result of the person's experiences, rather it is an awareness that helps himself to distinguish one's own self from other people. Goals of person-centered psychotherapy are to provide a climate conducive to helping the individual become a fully functioning person. For achieving this end, the counselor facilitates the client toward openness to experience, which implies becoming more aware of reality as it exists outside oneself. It also means that one's beliefs are not rigid, one can remain open to further knowledge and growth and can tolerate ambiguity. Rationality. Rationality is a characteristic which cannot be achieved without openness to one's experiences. If a person is aware of his actualizing tendency, then his behavior will be rational in order to maintain and enhance his personal self. Personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is something which requires a person to feel a sense of responsibility for his or her self-actualization. It covers the Rogers ideas of individuals, which requires the person to believe in his own valuing process, accepting responsibility for his own responses and behavior, and accepting that he is different from the other people. Self-regard. It refers to unconditionally loving and respecting oneself in spite of the fact that we may not like all our behaviors or traits. Role of the counselor is very important in person-centered therapy. The counselor role is that of the holistic one, in which he enforces the relationship of the counselor and the client with an emphasis on the I-thou qualities. The counselor constructs a positive climate where the client can explore freely all of the aspects of his own self. The counselor is aware of the verbal and non-verbal language of the client, and he or she mirrors back what he or she is listening and observing. The counselor's job is to facilitate rather than direct. The therapist makes limited use of psychological tests. One of the tests often used in client-centered therapy is Q-SWOT technique. Due to this loving, trusting, respecting, accepting and understanding attitude of the counselor or therapist, the rigidness and defensive perceptions between both the client and the therapist gets loose and easy with both of them and moving to a greater level of personality functioning. Rogers emphasized various conditions important for a change, which are that there must be a psychological contact in between the persons. Vulnerability, anxiousness, and incongruence are showing up in the client. The therapist is able to integrate himself fully in the relationship. A positive regard, which is unconditional, should be felt by the therapist for the client. The therapist understands empathetically the inner frame of reference of the client and able to communicate this understanding to him. The therapist's empathy, understanding, and unconditional positive regard should be communicated to the client at least to a minimal degree. 3 personal characteristics or attitudes of the therapist that form a central part of the therapeutic relationship are as follows. 1. Congruence or genuineness. Congruence or genuineness refers to the consistency between the way therapist feels and the way he or she behaves. It is the counselor's readiness for setting aside concerns and personal preoccupations and for being available and open in relationship with the client. Congruent therapist is without a false front and is real. That is, the therapist is genuine, integrated, and authentic during therapy hour. He or she is without a false front. His or her inner experience and outer expression of that experience match, and he or she can openly experience feelings and attitudes that are present in the relationship with the client. Through the person-to-person relationship, the therapist works towards his or her own becoming and self-actualization as well as towards the client's growth. The therapist must take the responsibility for his or her own feelings, and he should try to analyze those feelings of the client which does not permit or hinders the therapist to be fully present with the client. According to Rogers, congruence can also be viewed via the concept of presence. In counseling, the clients and counselors can obtain altered states of consciousness due to which they may have an insight to the evolutionary flow going on inside. Unconditional positive regard. It refers to the belief of the therapist in his client's ability for required change if given with an appropriate nurturing environment. The therapist shows the client intense and true care and love for the client. The unconditional caring is one which is unaffected by the judgment of the client's feelings, thoughts, and behavior as appropriate or inappropriate. The therapist values and warmly accepts the client. The therapist communicates through his or her own behavior that he or she values the client as the client is, and teaches the client that he or she is free to have his or her own emotions, thoughts, and behaviors without losing the acceptance given by the therapist. Next characteristic we have is empathy. It refers to viewing the world of the client's subjective experiences through his shoes or skin. Therapist needs to be sensitive to the continuous flow of experiencing that goes on both in client and in themselves. Moreover, the therapist should communicate his own understanding of the subjective and personal world of the client. The aim of the empathetic understanding is to encourage the client to get closer to himself or herself in order to experience feelings more deeply and intensely, and to recognize and resolve the incongruity that exists within the client. The concept implies the therapist sensing the client's feelings as if they were his or her own without becoming lost in those feelings. All 3 characteristics or attitudes exist on a continuum. It is not an all or none matter. The greater the degree of therapist congruency or unconditional positive regard or empathy, the greater the chance that client will move forward in therapy. Now we move on to the techniques of client-centered therapy. There are various techniques that have been proposed for a person-centered therapy, which are non-directive period. This was the time of development of theory when the primary focus of the therapist was to provide the client with a permissive environment and carefully listen to everything what the client speaks. The counselor did not provide interventions but showed only acceptance and clarification. Then comes reflective period. At this time, the therapist tried to become non-judgmental about what the client speaks while clearly reflecting the feelings of the clients like a mirror. Then there comes an experiential period. This period began when Rogers' findings on the important condition for therapy came into light, which were empathy, unconditional positive regard, and congruence. This period helped the person-centered counseling to be more active and more well-defined. Since 1980, the person-centered counselors have tried a number of other techniques such as limited self-disclosure of feelings, thoughts, and values. Clients grow through experiencing themselves and others in relationship. Therefore, Rogers believed that significant personality change could not occur except in a relationship. Other techniques include actively hearing to what client says, appropriate mirroring of the client's affect, clarification, summarizing, confronting, and general or open-ended way of leading. The next humanistic therapy that we have is Gestalt therapy, which was proposed by Friedrich Perls in 1969. As a psychoanalyst of Europe developed Gestalt therapy. Gestalt therapy involves a way to experience, feel, and express rather than to interpret. It focuses on the behavior, thoughts, and feelings of the moment rather than the behavior, thoughts, and feelings of the past. Understanding that the emotional responses to present events are faulty, a residue of habits acquired due to suppressed conflicting thoughts. In German, the term Gestalt means principles of perception by which we arrange the elements of the stimuli to a meaningful whole patterns. Gestalt therapy has focus on body-mind unity, giving emphasis the need of integrating the thinking, affect, and behavior. Generally, while perceiving, for instance, external stimuli, ideas or emotions we focus on are only a part of the experience, that is, the figure, while ignoring the background which lies behind the figure. For people with psychological difficulties, the ignored background includes important feelings, wishes, and thoughts which are blocked from awareness because of they might evoke anxiety. Gestalt therapy's goal is to teach clients to recognize the bodily processes and emotions they had been blocking off from awareness so that the client can be whole once again. Thus, to increase the individual's self-awareness and self-acceptance by helping clients become aware of the feelings and needs they have disowned, to recognize them that these are genuine part of themselves. Gestalt therapy, even if used for a group, has its focus on a person at a time, trying to help them identify the characteristics of the individual self or the world that are not being acknowledged. Now we must understand the basic notions of Gestalt therapy, which includes the wholeness and integration. Wholeness can be defined as a unity of mind and body, instead viewing them as of distinct parts. Integration can be defined as to how an individual's part fits with each other and how he unites them into the environment. Next, awareness. Awareness is a sign of good health in a person and is itself an aim of the treatment. An aware person can regulate his environment effectively. Energy and blocks to energy. Major emphasis of Gestalt therapy is on where the energy resides in the body, way the person uses it, and the way it may cause a hindrance. Growth disorders. Growth disorders can be defined as the problems which are emotional and are due to incomplete awareness or incomplete interaction with one's environment. It is due to the growth disorders that some people find it difficult to perfectly deal with the everyday hassles of their lives. So they then may resort to self-defense mechanisms. Unfinished business. Unfinished business is often related to the people having growth disorder. Such people often find it difficult to finish their work on time. Main goals of Gestalt therapy. Therapist's aim is not to change client but to improve their self-awareness of the present moment. Another goal is to develop awareness of their own realities and to help them take responsibility for choosing their present situation. The major focus of Gestalt therapy is on the I-thou relationship, in which the highest emphasis is being given to the present moment and least to the future or past. Therapist needs to understand the experiences of the client, which involves consideration of the client's verbal and non-verbal behavior. The principles behind the techniques of Gestalt therapy. Enactment. Enactment is a method where client is asked to transform his feelings or thinking into behavior. Exaggeration. Exaggeration is a special kind of enactment in which the individual is being asked to express some feelings, thoughts, movements, etc. in a greater amount than it is, so to experience it more intensely. Guided fantasy. Guided fantasy is suggested by the therapist to bring an experience into the here and now situation more efficiently by visualizing than by enacting. Loosening techniques. This technique can assist the client who is so firmly held by the common ways of thinking that alternative ways of thinking are not allowed into the consciousness. Integrating techniques. These are the techniques of integration in which those processes are brought together from which the client generally maintains a distance, such as by asking the client to locate the feeling in the body part. Techniques of body awareness. This brings the client's awareness to the functions of his body, like by asking them to take deep breaths. Techniques of Gestalt therapy are as follows. Gestalt therapy utilizes a variety of methods of imagination to persuade clients to have an insight of their inner selves. These methods are active, dramatic, and sometimes confrontational. The method of experiment or learning experience is used in the Gestalt therapy. Such experiments persuade the client for transformation of his affect or thoughts to behavior, role play, or other activities that seek to enhance the self-awareness of the person. Role playing. Role playing is one of the techniques used in which the therapist often asks the clients to role play different aspects of themselves to make them directly experience their inner dynamics. Gestalt therapists believe that by re-experiencing old hurts, jealousies, fear, and resentments, therapy goals could be achieved. Empty chair technique is often used in which the client imagines an important person from his or her past, a parent, child or spouse, it could be anyone, is sitting on the chair, and then they carry on a conversation in which he alternately role plays the imagined person from the past and himself, changing the chairs for each role and honestly telling to the imagined person how he or she feels about important issues in their relationship. As a result, clients gain insight into their own true feelings. This may actually help to reduce the emotional turmoil that brought clients to therapy in the first place. That is an important benefit in itself. Also, the powerful feelings evoked can help clients to become aware of unresolved issues that affect other relationships in their life as well. Recent research on empty chair technique that it does indeed help clients resolve unfinished business with the significant individuals in their past. In Pearl's approach to therapy, attention is also paid to dreams. According to Gestalt therapy, every dream, no matter how vague or undirected it is, points to an unappreciated characteristic of the person or client. The client is asked to avoid any assessment and to be the object in his dream and then to report his experience. The next technique that we have under Gestalt therapy is top dog and underdog technique. The top dog and underdog dialogue is a type of method of Gestalt therapy in which the two competing views, thoughts, or feelings of the clients are being tried to be differentiated by the client after being asked by the therapist to do so. Then the client tries to play the role of each one of these in a dialogue between them. Next technique is fantasy. The type of technique used by the Gestalt therapist is to confront his innermost thoughts and feelings and to bring them close to finished and unfinished business. Guided imagery is used by the therapist for creating fantasy situation, for enabling clients to imagine what they would do in a particular situation. Next technique is creating confusion. The method to deal with the confusion of the client is to attend to his reluctance in discussing about the unpleasant event. The hesitating attitude of the client can be shown via an avoidant attitude, unclear conversation, and vague fantasies. Now we must know the applications of Gestalt therapy. Gestalt therapy was originally used to treat anxious and depressed individuals and patients without chronic or acute diseases. Nowadays, this therapy is found to be extremely beneficial in treatment of personality disorders like borderline personality disorder. It has also been found to be beneficial in couple counseling groups and families. Now we must go through the critical evaluation of the humanistic approaches. Many of the humanistic concepts like the uniqueness of each individual, the importance of the therapist's genuineness, the satisfying emotions which are achieved after the convergence of real and ideal self and from achieving one's highest potential, the significance of the finding of the meaning of one's life and the ability of a person to choose and be self-directed have had major impact on our contemporary views of both human nature and the nature of growth psychotherapy. Humanistic therapies have been criticized for their lack of agreed upon therapeutic procedures and their vagueness about what is supposed to happen between the client and therapist. Controlled research on the outcomes achieved by the humanistic therapies was lacking in the past, but as the number of controlled outcome studies grew, there is evidence to suggest that these treatment approaches are helpful for patients with a variety of problems including depression, anxiety, trauma, and marital difficulties. Now we must summarize our understanding from this entire module. Humanistic therapy focuses on the positive aspects including free will, freedom to find meaning in life, and personal growth. Two kinds of humanistic therapies are Rogers client-centered therapy and Pearl's Gestalt therapy, both of which emphasize at the self-awareness and self-acceptance. Evidence has shown that it is beneficial for various physiological and psychological and interpersonal problems.